we have some breaking news out of the music world. Irish singer Sinéad O'Connor has died at the age of 56.
On July 26, 2023, Irish singer Sinéad O'Connor was found unresponsive at her flat in South London, later declared dead, and as of now, the cause has not been disclosed. This news brought a shockwave from musicians and fans all over the world. Tributes and praise for her contributions to music were posted by various individuals, and of course, sales of her work increased on the tragic announcement. And meanwhile, I couldn't help but think to myself two questions. The first being, didn't people hate her?
You don't like America, get the hell out.
You will hear no Sinead O'Connor on this radio station.
I remember distinctly that Sinead was a punchline for many years.
Issue number 3, the bald chick, what's with her head?
At least in the United States. Her appearance of being bald and having an angry demeanor were very easy to mock, and especially her infamous performance on Saturday Night Live. You know the one. Tearing up a picture of Pope John Paul II on live television, resulting in her being one of the rare artists banned from ever performing again on the sketch comedy show. But was that the reason people hated her? For criticizing the Catholic Church on live television? I mean, with what we know now, but besides that, then there's the second question. Why did this news upset me? I didn't know her music that well. I couldn't name an album by her, let alone heard one in its entirety. And besides the obvious, I wasn't able to name a song by her. My only real frame of reference of her discography would be the song everyone associates the Irish singer with.
And listen up now to this Prince Pen tune, Nothing Compares to You.
It's been 7 hours and 15 days.
Nothing Compares to You seems like the stuff of legends.
I go out every night and sleep all day.
Widely regarded as one of the best songs of the 1990s, as well as being a template of how to make a song for the decade, as it was released in 1990. It has been deemed a groundbreaking piece of music for a lot of reasons, and I had only heard it once, and that was due to watching its music video.
I go out every night.
I found it very interesting how, in spite of the fact that Sinead was seen as a pariah in the music industry, Nothing Compares to You continues to have a foothold in its influence from music and music videos. And I wasn't exactly sure why that is, and I thought that researching the history behind it would give me that answer. And let me tell you, this goes much deeper than some may think. At one point reading about Sinead's history, I did wish that she just never recorded it. A rather sardonic statement to make, but this history lesson is not going to be one of those uplifting sessions, I can warn you now. So for this episode, I thought it would be about time to talk about the history of Sinead O'Connor's Nothing Compares to You, and discuss how much of an impact this music video left behind.
Where did I go wrong?
Because it is once again music video time.
Nothing compares to you.
You're watching the top 20 of 120 minutes right now. After the Smiths broke up, bassist Andy Rourke and drummer Mike Joyce hooked up with Sinead O'Connor, and Sinead told us it was just a dream come true.
The 6th track off her second album, I Do Not Want What I Haven't Got, Sinead's lead single was released on January 8th, 1990. Another track off that album, Jump in the River, was part of the soundtrack to Jonathan Demme's film Married to the Mob from 1988.
Let's try this uniform on, then we'll see how things look.
You can technically say Jump in the River was this album's lead single for that, though it would be the B-side to Nothing Compares to You on a 7-inch single, but that's besides the point. If you have an inkling of knowledge about Sinead's monster of a hit, you would know that this song is actually a cover, and its writer is no small potato. The man in purple himself, Prince. Let me tell you, the origins of this song first begins in 1984, the same year as the musician's seminal Purple Rain was released. Both album and film received both critical and commercial success that year, especially the album.
Let's go crazy.
These two works are so highly regarded, they're preserved in the Library of Congress in both the National Film and Recording Registries respectively. That being said, Nothing Compares to You wasn't part of the Purple Rain sessions. On July 15, 1984, fresh off from watching the Jacksons' victory tour during their Dallas leg, Prince had returned to his recording studio, where in a few hours, he would compose and record the original demo for Nothing Compares.
It's been 7 hours and 13 days.
The only other person in the studio was Prince's studio engineer Susan Rogers. From the book Prince and the Purple Rain Era Studio Sessions, 1983 and 1984 by Dwayne Tudall, Rogers said she was amazed by how beautiful it was. He took his notebook and he went to the bedroom, wrote the lyrics very quickly, came back out, and sang it. I was very impressed with it.
Nothing, nothing.
Now, this song didn't end up on Prince's next album, Around the World in a Day. Prince didn't think it would fit with his public image at the time, so instead, Prince would give the song to a new band he had recently created.
I go out every night and sleep all day.
The Family. The Family was formed from former members of Prince's other group, The Time, having a recently added member, Paul Peterson, become The Family's frontman. The band was signed under Prince's new record label, Paisley Park Records, and as such, Prince would be the one writing the songs for the band. Nearly every song off their self-titled album would be written by Prince, but be credited by someone else in the family. That was just something Prince did. The only exception to this would be River Run Dry by Bobby Z. When their album was released on August 19th, 1985, it did not do so well.
You know what to do.
On the Billboard 200, it peaked at 62, and on the R&B charts, it peaked at 17, which doesn't seem so bad. Their song Screams of Passion hit the Hot 100, but only peaked at number 63, and it was played on MTV on light rotation starting at the week of November 16th, 1985. It seems it only played on the channel for 2 weeks on light rotation before being taken off. Overall, the family's debut was considered a commercial failure, and as such, the band would split up in 1985. With that, the family and their work would fade into obscurity as Prince would continue on with his other music ventures. Especially Nothing Compares to You, as it wasn't even released as a single and remained as an album exclusive. So how did Sinéad O'Connor ever listen to a track from a failed album? Let's go back a bit when O'Connor was just starting out. Before going solo, she had some recognition thanks to a band she formed called Ton Ton Macoute. After its breakup, Sinéad moved from Ireland to London with dreams of getting signed by a label. She would eventually meet Faulkner O'Kelly, a former journalist for the Evening Press and former head of U2's Mother Records. Sinéad was 17 when she met O'Kelly, who was almost 40. Nevertheless, they developed a relationship and O'Kelly would become her manager and she would eventually sign onto Instant Records, by that time owned by Chrysalis Records.
Folks, making her network television debut, please welcome Sinéad O'Connor. Sinéad?
In 1987, she released her debut album, The Lion and the Cobra, to critical acclaim and commercial success. Now, I couldn't find when Sinéad first heard the song, but O'Kelly introduced the song to his talent and he suggested she sing it on her second album. Perhaps in an ironic twist, while recording Nothing Compares, the relationship between singer and manager both strained professionally and intimately, and as such, Sinéad and Faulkner would split up. Interestingly, Sinéad would hire a new manager that had an interesting background. Steve Forgnoli, a Rhode Island-born manager, had numerous acts under his management, including Earth, Wind & Fire, Sly Stone, DJ Giles Band, Godsmack, and most importantly, Prince.
Forgnoli, thank you to allow us to enter the Prince wardrobe.
Forgnoli had been managing Prince all the way back from the musician's 1979 self-titled album, and the way both Forgnoli and Sinéad would be during a Prince concert. As Sinéad explained back in 2001, I actually met Steve at a Prince concert at the Camden Palace and just after I'd released my first album. By that time, I'd broken up with my then manager, Faulkner O'Kelly. I'd meet Steve several times at social occasions since he was managing Carl Wellinger, and he was happy to take me on. When Forgnoli took Sinéad on as her manager, he'd been fired by Prince in 1988. I bring all this up to clarify something that isn't really clear. I have read articles that aren't sure whether or not Forgnoli or Kelly told Sinéad about Nothing Compares to You. So let me run a timeline down. Prince played the Camden Palace on July 26, 1988 during his Love Sexy tour. And this would be months after she released her first album. And from what I've said, Sinéad had already been working on her version of Nothing Compares to You while Faulkner was still her manager. In fact, they were in the process of breaking up with him during the sessions. So it does appear that she was introduced to the Prince written song before ever meeting Forgnoli. Just ended up being a happy circumstance that her future manager once managed Prince. We'll talk more about the process of making the song later, but for now, let's talk about the production history behind the music video. The video was directed by John Maybury.
You wanna know my story, babe? It's easy.
What's interesting about having Maybury direct would be the fact that he was the apprentice to director and artist Derek Jarman, having worked on the production of the director's films as being a set designer for 1978's Jubilee and being an editor for The Last of England in 1987. He eventually directed music videos because that was where the money was, and he directed music videos for acts such as Everything But the Girl, Boy George, and Nena Cherry. Also, this would not only be Sinéad's 6th music video, it would also be the 6th time Maybury would be her director. Beginning all the way back in 1987 with Troy. Maybury was also the director for her 1989 video, The Values of Ignorance, which was a concert shot at the Dominion Theatre in London on June 3rd, 1988, and was sold on VHS. While Maybury was the director of the shoot, the rest of the crew were all female. This included the cinematographer Dominique Le Rigoleur.
With the lighting camera woman, Dominique Le Rigoleur, who we chose particularly because we wanted a female to create a relationship between Sinead and the camera.
I couldn't really figure out when exactly the music video was shot. The song was released as a single in July 1990, so it could have been shot in late 1989, possibly December 1989. What I do know is that the music video was shot in 2 locations. Throughout the music video, of which the majority of it is just Sinead being shot close up, you see Sinead walking around in Paris, France. Maybury shot several hours of Sinead going around Paris, even have her driving on a moped.
Her arm, she holds 3 cold babies.
As for the close-up shots, they were all shot in London. From what I've read, the music video wasn't supposed to be at all about the close-ups. It was supposed to be the shots of Paris, while the close-ups would be interspersed throughout. Instead, in the final cut, the opposite happens, where Sinead's face is the main focus. There is an explanation behind the decision, but we'll get to that in a bit. In Sinead's 2021 memoir, Rememberings, she only has 2 pages dedicated to the music video, but it tells the details of where the music video was shot in Paris. The Père Lachaise Cemetery. This is the largest cemetery in Paris, clocking in at 110 acres, so keep that in mind. Another area she would be walking around would be the Parc des Saint Cloud. But in general, Nothing Compares to You appears to have been a pretty straightforward music video in terms of production, not to mention pretty laid back. In 2022, a documentary on Sinead's life, appropriately titled Nothing Compares, interviewed John Maybury about shooting the music video.
Between takes, Sinead would click on some really heavy-duty dub reggae and light up a spliff and be bopping around the studio.
A spliff is a slang term for marijuana, by the way. We weren't in a kind of particularly somber mood, but once those cameras started rolling, Sinead got into character. Just like the production, when discussing the music video and what happens in it, it's straightforward.
It's been 7 hours and 15 days.
You have Sinead looking straight at the camera, singing Nothing Compares in between shots of her walking around. This might be oversimplifying the music video, but that's essentially what happens in it. You could argue that being shot like this makes the music video pretty boring.
This sucks. Change it. No, wait. Check out this chick.
Not an unfounded argument to make if you're used to music videos that have a lot happening in them. In fact, I'm going to bring up another music video that came out the same year that was also extremely popular. Madonna's Vogue. This David Fincher directed jaunt is one of the many classic music videos by Madonna that has a lot of the usual glitz and glamour you expect by her. Excellent choreography, a really artsy aesthetic, and of course, Madonna in her sheer lace blouse was definitely a sight to see. This video has a lot going on throughout. Just where you bump and grind it. Especially in comparison to Sinead's simple music video. This is what makes Nothing Compares to You interesting. Its simplicity lets you focus on Sinead herself. You don't need things like dancers or sex appeal throughout, especially since there's nothing really sexy about the song. It's rather depressing, even with Sinead's take. The Family's original wasn't exactly all that upbeat in comparison. The song is about a breakup. A breakup that happened 7 hours and 15 days before the song begins.
It's been 7 hours and 15 days.
I guess that should be a sign about how much of an impact this breakup is if you're counting the minutes since the termination of the relationship. And in spite of the perceived independence from this relationship, where one can do things like eat at a fancy restaurant,
I can eat my dinner in a fancy restaurant.
nothing the singer is doing can fill the void left behind from their former significant other.
Nothing can take away this blues.
And that in and of itself is a very powerful subject matter. The struggles of moving on from such a meaningful relationship. This song is one of many examples as to why Prince is such a great songwriter. That being said, in the hands of Sinéad O'Connor, the song is elevated even further for many reasons. There's a great article from Sound on Sound on the recording of Nothing Compares to You that talks about how difficult the song's production was. And I mean between the Irish singer and her studio engineer, Chris Burkett. Probably my favorite part of the article is that Sinéad was very much against compressors in her music, and so every morning she would put a 4A piece of paper on the engineer's console saying, "No compressors." And this is all the while Sinéad would literally scream into the microphone. But it all worked out for her, especially how she inflected the emotion that she did for the song. O'Connor said to the BBC that around this time she was studying a style of singing called bel canto. But it's a bit like the Stanislavski acting method. You have to find emotional stuff inside yourself that you can use. Basically, she said,
Acting! Brilliant! Let's go!
which I totally believe, since Sinéad did a fair amount of acting during this time. She was in a Northern Irish television film Hushabye Baby, a film about a 15-year-old who becomes pregnant during the Troubles and keeps it a secret from her friends and family. Sinéad didn't play the lead role, but she was one of the lead's friends, with her character also being named Sinéad.
We'll be barred, and it'll be your fault, sloppy Ted, going on about what's his face.
It's a fucking disgrace, Sinéad.
Cute. Off camera, she was smoking pot and was probably blasting Jimmy Cliff on a Walkman. But once the camera started rolling, you have her play the role of a woman who is in mourning.
Girl, you better try to have fun, no matter what you do. But he's a fool.
Devastated by the loss of a loving relationship. Having her somberly walking through a cemetery adds to this feeling of gloom and sadness, and that is exactly what makes this music video so interesting. This is not a fun music video. Sinéad is staring at you and singing to you in this song, causing a connection between the audience and her, that they had this great thing going on between them, and it's over, but the pain lives on. This is not a fun video.
Looking into my monitor, looking down that lens, I saw right there this connection coming down the camera. It was like, oh, okay, this is really something else. It's not my direction, it's not the cinematography, it's entirely her.
When I see articles about this video, I see how it's considered to be much more different than anything else they were putting on MTV, essentially calling it groundbreaking. It took me longer than it should have to make me figure out what makes Nothing Compares to You a benchmark for music videos. Because the obvious fact is, the video is simple. It is a no-thrills music video about a song that is in itself not a fun subject. And because of that, it's a fair observation to make that it is not like any other music video around that time. And then it occurred to me,
I get it.
that's the point. It goes against the normal conventions of making a music video at that time. Not only that, this is the music video. This is the music video that started it all, or at least popularized it. Think about this for a second. MTV through the 80s had a bunch of colorful music videos with impressive camera works, with having some beautiful women shown on screen. A good amount of music videos set a tone that music videos had to be larger than life with their productions. Not all of them, but a good amount of the most popular music videos being shown on the channel had that. In comparison, Sinéad's video was an absolute outlier. This video showed that music videos can be simplistic and yet be effective. This was the antithesis to everything a music video was. No over-the-top production, no dancing, no excessive editing, and you can also say that Sinéad does not fit the archetype of what a woman would look like in a music video, which in of itself is a very striking piece of imagery, even to the point that it's usually what gets most parodied when it comes to making fun of the video.
We have the Irish bombshell Sinéad O'Connor with her latest single, and word is it's dedicated to her Dublin hairdresser.
Nothing's there. I have no hair, you fool.
You never really see a woman with shaved heads that much. What exactly is going on here? Well, there's a really good reason behind her signature hairstyle. or lack thereof.
They wanted me to grow my hair really long and wear mini skirts and all that kind of stuff because they reckoned I'd look much prettier and all this stuff. So I went straight round to the barber and shaved the rest of my hair off.
But if you didn't know this fact, and I'm not sure many do, seeing this would immediately raise eyebrows and make you wonder, why did she do this? And that does add a bit to the complexity of the music video. Maybe the breakup led to her shaving her head. I wouldn't be surprised if at least one person came to that conclusion while watching this video and seeing O'Connor for the first time. There's a lot of room to be had where one could draw their own interpretation as to what to take from this video, which leads us to talking about the most famous aspect of the music video. Near the end of the song, Sinéad starts crying. We'd already shot most of the video in London a few days ago, maybe 3 setups. In one, a close-up, I just sang the song along with the track, singing in a chair, wearing a black polo neck. But in the part where it says, "All the flowers that you planted, mama, in the backyard," I cried for like 20 seconds. I think that means I wasted their time. I didn't manage to get my act together and keep singing, so it's good we're shooting all this stuff in Paris. I feel bad I wasted everyone's time and money though. That moment right there is one of the most iconic moments in music videos. But as memorable as the crying was, it was never meant to happen. Sinéad actually cried during filming and they kept it in. A real show of emotion that hits home how badly this breakup was. And Sinéad did break up with Faulkner around this time, so real life could have manifested into this video. And that would be the obvious interpretation behind this moment if the actual reasoning for the crying wasn't something else. It is said that the song's lyrics are in reference to Prince's father's housekeeper quitting after his father died from a heart attack. Sandy was the person who made sure that he had his favorite beverage, which was Five Alive, and she would make sure the house was clean and there were fresh flowers on the piano, and that the socks and underwear were washed. She had been gone and Prince's mood was getting darker and darker. He would say, "When is Sandy coming back?" That might have been the inspiration for the song. On the other hand, it's also said that this might be in reference to his split with his fiancée, Susanna Melvoin, which is interesting to note that Melvoin was a member of the family and was part of the original version of Nothing Compares. Rather awkward if that's the case, but let's get back to Sinéad. She cried while singing to this verse, and it has nothing to do with her and Faulkner. John Maybury, who again directed my video, thought I was crying because me and Faulkner had recently parted ways. But I'm happy about that now. It's better for everyone. Again, this song is about a breakup, so it would be fair for Maybury or anyone watching the music video to assume she's crying because of the collapse of the relationship. Where did I go wrong? But Sinéad is refuting this. I was crying about my mother being dead. I'm still really messed up about it, even though I'm 24. A little embarrassing, but there you go. I'm a girl. This adds a new aspect for the song. For context, Sinéad O'Connor's mother, Marie, died in 1985 in a car accident. Sinéad was 18 at the time, and this would be the same year she signed to Ensign Records.
We were all sobbing, we were all in bits, I remember. It was awful. And then when no one was looking, to this day they don't know, I sneaked a photograph under her hands like this of the 4 of us because I know she loved us, whatever went on, you know. The
relationship between the two were, simply put, volatile. She mentions in her memoir about regularly being beaten by her mother, and she was even addicted to stealing, including from the collection plate at the church.
Kicking me, kicking me, and kicking me, and kicking me, and kicking me. And telling me I'm evil, and telling me I shouldn't have been born, and I'm the reason my father left.
She even got Sinéad addicted to stealing herself, which resulted in the singer getting into trouble. With her mom being abusive for her for so many years, it would be a weird thing for her to cry about, but as she said, she was still messed up about it. Interestingly, she was never emotional when she sang that part of the song in the recording studio. Only that take in the music video was when she started bawling her eyes out. Going back, it does appear that the music video was supposed to have been about the shots in Paris more than the setup shots they had in London. And from Sinéad's account, she believes she ruined the sequence with her crying, since they also had the coverage in Paris and possibly medium and long shots taken from the London shoots. She might have thought this take was unusable and wouldn't be in the video. Instead, it ended up being the majority of the video. Because what she unintentionally did was produce one of the most raw moments in a music video. And it subsequently connected the moments of the cemetery to the song, tying in on the theme. Sure, it could have been chalked up to a failed relationship being equivalent to a death, but to actually be crying about a death in your life had her managing to cry at a perfect moment and solidifying the theme to the video. The story was sold when this happened. So we talked about the music video and its production history, but now we gotta talk about how the video became popular. Before researching this music video, I was led to believe that the reasoning behind the song getting popular had to do with the fact that Prince was its writer. Prince had a habit of writing songs while going uncredited or under a pseudonym.
Just another Manic Monday.
Manic Monday by the Bangles had this happen, but that doesn't make sense for that being the reason for the success. The song was obscure before Sinead got her hands on it, so there had to be another reason. And this is where I find out everything I knew about Sinead O'Connor was completely wrong. I wouldn't be surprised if people believe that Sinead O'Connor just popped out of nowhere with her version of Nothing Compares to You and just springboarded into popularity. I certainly did, but the fact of the matter is, Sinead already had a foothold in the United States and was relatively established. In terms of the United States, her 1987 debut album, The Lion the Cobra, was commercially successful by the time her second album was released. The record label had its sales projections be at 25,000 copies. It ended up selling 500,000 in the US alone. As well, on the US 200 charts, it peaked at 36. And the second single, Mandinka, was a hit on college radio at the time. Also, the song was remixed, and that remix ended up hitting the US dance charts. And because it sold 500,000 in the US, it was certified gold by the RIAA on November 10th, 1989. That would be less than 2 months before the song was even released in the US, and she already has a gold record. On the 1988 Billboard 200 end of list, her album was number 95. And this is not counting how popular she was in Europe. Troy and Mandinka did hit the charts in different countries when released, so she was a lucrative musician before 1990.
Keep my hands to myself instead.
And the critical reception the album got at the time saw it warmly received with positive reviews from the Los Angeles Times and Rolling Stone.
Tonight, the Grammy Awards are presenting 3 brand new solo performers who were all nominated in the category Best Rock Vocal Performance Female.
As well, the album was nominated at the 31st Grammy Awards for Best Female Rock Vocal Performance, losing to Tina Turner.
She has served notice that this is no ordinary talent. Ladies and gentlemen, please meet Sinead O'Connor.
She also performed Mandinka at the Grammys that year. Another factor at play is that Sinead was relatively well known on MTV. Mandinka was played on MTV's rotation as a breakout video for the week of March 23rd, 1988, though that might have been a one-week thing. But at the same time, Sinead had appeared on the alternative rock block 120 Minutes. According to the website 120minutesarchive.org, Sinead's videos were played on the block, with them recording her appearing on 8 installments in 1988 alone. Sinead had the acclaim, the commercial appeal, and a presence on the biggest music channel. And Chrysalis was well aware of the potential in pushing out Nothing Compares to You. Once the record label noticed the success of Sinead's first album, they took an initiative to generate hype on her follow-up. Greg Thompson, senior director of pop promotion at Chrysalis Records, explained the strategy the label took in an interview with the Austin American-Statesman. The song was released in England on January 1990, while it would be released in the United States in March. Chrysalis sent out hundreds of import copies of Nothing Compares to You to radio programmers that were playing Sinead's first album. Thompson said those programmers went berserk and absolutely played her song. Conquering the airwaves by doing this, Thompson, with a completed music video, went to the executives of MTV and VH1.
Here's the world premiere of the brand new video from Sinead O'Connor, Nothing Compares to You.
The music video was played on 120 Minutes on January 28th, as well as them doing an X-ray segment on her. But it's one thing about this song being on 120 Minutes rotation. That's where all the alternative music went. It's another when it can be played multiple times on the main rotation. Interestingly, it would be VH1 that would have Nothing Compares to You enter their rotation first. During the week of February 24th, 1990. For the week of March 3rd, it would enter MTV's rotation. And from there, as Thompson described, the song was placed on Brainwash rotation. This video played for a long time. MTV would last track the video on heavy rotation for the week of May 19th, 1990, but it still continued to play on smaller music outlets like Night Tracks and Hit Video USA. Meanwhile, Thompson sent video programmers a sampling of what music Chrysalis had for them to play on their stations. And of course, this included Sinead's lead single. Keep in mind the song is still not officially released yet in the United States, but this all worked. It snowballed, Thompson said. A lot of programmers had heard it, seen it coming through MTV, been aware of the alternative buzz on it. By the time we went to the official release, it was amazing how strong the buzz was. I've never seen radio react so strongly, react to a record with no negatives. The record label was definitely expecting the song to do well for Sinéad and themselves, probably expecting this to become her first top 40 hit in the US at least. Her first album selling 500,000 in the US is nothing to sneeze at considering it doesn't have any hit singles. But I don't think anyone expected how highly successful the song and album ended up being. Nothing Compares to You first entered Billboard's Hot 100 during the week of March 17th, 1990 at number 63. By next week, it climbed 30 slots to crack the top 40. Sinéad finally had a hit song in the US, but the number keeps going. The next week, cracks the top 20 at 16. Another week, cracks the top 10 at number 9. Another week, top 5, position 4. And then, for its 6th week on the charts, it made it to the peak. For the week of April 21st, 1990, Sinéad O'Connor had the biggest song in the United States. Not only that, it would maintain the number 1 slot for 4 weeks. And as impressive as that is, 1 week after its lead single hit the top, I Do Not What I Haven't Got would reach number 1 on the Billboard 200, being the number 1 album for 6 weeks. The album and the single were global sensations. Nothing Compares to You especially, as it would be a number 1 hit song in 17 countries, including Ireland. To call this a success is an understatement. Worldwide sales for The Lion and the Cobra was at 2.5 million records sold. I Do Not Want What I Haven't Got sold 7 million, with the RIAA certifying it double platinum in 1990. The song, meanwhile, was certified platinum. And I would absolutely say the commercial success of the album was due to its lead single. It resonated with people for being a song that had a subject matter that was universally relatable. And I would say the success of that song had to do with the music video, as it helped with its longevity on the television stations.
The 1990 Billboard Music Awards, hosted by Paul Schaefer and Morris Day.
When it comes to awards, Sinéad's song was nominated at a bunch of award shows. The first Billboard Music Awards, for example, awarded Nothing Compares as the number 1 world single.
Sinéad O'Connor deserves this award. She deserves it because she gave an arresting and emotionally involving performance. It offered you the opportunity. There was no slick posing, no big production. It was refreshing as rain, and it went to the top of the charts in many countries.
The 1990 MTV Video Music Awards.
The music video would also get a lot of recognition at the 1990 MTV Video Music Awards.
Ladies and gentlemen, that cute little lady with the bald head, Sinéad O'Connor. Go, baby, go!
Sinéad went to the ceremony and even performed her number 1 hit live on MTV. As well as being in the audience and performing, Sinéad's music video would be nominated for 6 Moon Men, including Video of the Year. And that year had stiff competition, which included her being up against numerous artists for different categories. Best Postmodern Video, for example, an award that would be phased out the following year for Best Alternative Video, had her go up against the likes of Depeche Mode, Red Hot Chili Peppers, and Tears for Fears. And as for Video of the Year, she was up against the others. Aerosmith's Janie's Got a Gun, Don Henley's The End of the Innocents, and Madonna's Vogue. Yeah, I wasn't choosing Vogue at random for an earlier comparison. Vogue would be the song that knocked Nothing Compares off the top slot on the Hot 100. As well, Madonna got more nominations for the VMAs that year, leading the pack with 9 nominations. But when it was all said and done, both music videos would win 3 awards. Madonna's video would get 3 technical awards. Sinéad's video, on the other hand, would win for Best Postmodern Video, as well as Best Female Video, and Best Music Video.
And the winner for the Best Video of the Year is Sinéad O'Connor. I've got a long list of things to say. I really wasn't expecting this at all. I'd just like to say that I don't know, I'm extremely nervous and I'm extremely flattered. I'd like to thank Prince, first of all.
This would be a big moment for numerous reasons. First being that Madonna would lose to Sinéad twice at this ceremony, which pissed her off immensely. Second point, not only did Sinéad win Video of the Year, for the first time ever, a woman won the top honor. Which leads to the third point, not only did Madonna lose Video of the Year, she lost the award twice in a row.
There's no for you.
Having lost the previous year against Neil Young's This Note's For You. And with Nothing Compares winning Video of the Year, it essentially showed that this is the type of music video MTV was interested in to showcase on their channel. Alternative music videos would be becoming the new standard. Also, there's a great quote from Sinead in I Want My MTV that I can't help but share in its entirety. It was funny, when we won the award for Nothing Compares to You, Madonna was raging about it, because she had her Vogue video nominated also, and we her. She and Sandra Bernhard had been really nasty about me in magazine interviews based on how I looked, as if being blonde and having big tits and a big ass was more important. Which it is if you're a Madonna, because your records aren't great, so all you have to sell is tits and ass. So yeah, I was very pleased to beat the shit out of her that night. I absolutely love how candid Sinead was with that quote. Because when it came to 1990s rivalries, Madonna was at Sinead's throat. In one interview Madonna had in a 1991 issue of Spin magazine, she had said O'Connor had as much sex appeal as Venetian blinds. So I totally believe she was fuming about this loss. Which in the grand scheme of things, Madonna being mad at Sinead just made her one of many people the Irish singer pissed off in the next couple of years. This included the likes of Frank Sinatra and the state of New Jersey,
Uncle Fester,
when she disallowed the Star Spangled Banner from playing at her concert. For God's sakes, Frank Sinatra wanted to beat her up if they ever met. He was 75 when he said that.
What did you think when you heard that Frank was after you?
Well, I think old Frank probably needs a bit of publicity, you know.
I love Frank Sinatra. Who doesn't love Frank Sinatra? What's not to love? You know what I mean? And even to have been threatened with physical violence by Frank Sinatra is an honor.
Stars are coming.
In 1991, at the 33rd Annual Grammy Awards, she was nominated for 3 awards: Record of the Year, Best Female Pop Vocal Performance, and Best Music Video Short Form.
Will it be Mariah, Beth, Lisa, Sinead, or Whitney?
Her album was also nominated for Best Alternate Music Performance. This would be her only win that night. However, despite appearing at the VMAs months before and being at the Grammys 2 years prior, this time around she refused to appear at the ceremony, protesting the award show for being too commercial. Probably for the best anyway, considering Nothing Compares' music video would lose to Paula Abdul's Opposites Attract. I don't consider the Grammys a good indicator for best music videos. I could keep going on about the controversy Sinead had accumulated in the next couple years, but we all know where this would lead.
Once again, Sinead O'Connor.
Her October 3rd, 1992 performance on Saturday Night Live.
Musical guest, Sinead O'Connor.
She was supposed to perform on the show all the way back in 1990 on the May 12th episode, but refused to perform when she found out that Andrew Dice Clay would be the host. She didn't know who he was prior, but once she watched his stand-up material, she backed out.
O'Connor felt so bad, she never sang again.
Hey, that's too bad. She was a cute bald chick, you know?
So when she appeared on SNL in 92, this was to promote her 3rd album, Am I Not Your Girl? One of those songs was the album's lead single, Success Has Made a Failure of Our Home, which was a cover to Loretta Lynn's Success. She was also meant to sing another song off the album, but instead went with a cover of Bob Marley's War.
Human rights are equally guaranteed to all without regard to race.
And near the end of the performance, the rest is history.
Fight the real enemy.
Why am I bringing this up though? We're 2 years out from Nothing Compares, and this was the point where it seemed like everyone was turning on Sinead. Well, Sinead really didn't like the pop star status she garnered from this period. She cried when she found out both the single and album hit #1. She didn't want that. She didn't want to be known as a pop singer. She wanted to just be Sinead O'Connor. And this act of defiance on a popular comedy show, accusing the Pope and the Catholic Church of covering up abuse, was her ticket out. So she's done being a pop star, but that didn't stop her from making music. She made 7 more albums over the years. I want to make it clear she did not want to be known as the singer of Nothing Compares to You. She wanted to be known as Sinead O'Connor, who also sang a song called Nothing Compares to You, which I do have to bring up the time she did eventually meet the original songwriter. So one day, Sinead O'Connor got a phone call. An effeminate but irritated male voice asks, "Is that Shinehead O'Connor?" The person on the other end was Prince.
6 minutes. I can feel it.
Sinead goes to Prince's house, and he just continuously berates her for swearing, and he absolutely disrespects her. At one point, they even have a pillow fight, but Prince had put something inside the pillowcase to inflict pain on Sinead, so she flees Prince's house, and he chases her with his car. When this was brought up in a New York Times profile about her, she said this: "You've got to be crazy to be a musician. But there's a difference between being crazy and being a violent abuser of women." And when asked about the part about Prince being the writer of her most famous song, "As far as I'm concerned," she said, "it's my song." And I agree. Everyone associates Nothing Compares You with her, even if there's more to her than just that song. If you look at her YouTube channel, her 4 most watched videos are of that song, with over 500 million views combined. She continued to make albums and music videos years after the SNL incident, and sure, she only had 1 top 40 hit on the Hot 100, but some of her albums still charted on Billboard 200, and she still had hits on the alternative charts. But at the end of the day, Nothing Compares is still heavily seen as Sinead's. Even when Prince's demo to the song was released in 2018, I would say that song belongs to her. It's so synonymous to her that when she spent a few years not performing the song, she knew she had to bring it back in her sets. It would be ridiculous otherwise. This moment was a blip in time for the singer, but it was the most significant. As for the music video, if there was one word to describe it, it would be that subtle. I find it rather difficult to really analyze it, but I know many others have. One person in particular being Saul Austerlitz in his book Money for Nothing. He goes into detail about the video having the statues being motifs of the range of emotions Sinead goes through, as well as other pieces of symbolism and austerity the video offers. But there's one description that really fascinates me. Austerlitz compares Sinead's manner and appearance to Maria Falconetti from the 1928 French film The Passion of Joan of Arc. And when comparing the two, like a bird without a song, I definitely see some similarities. Might be a coincidence that this French film has similarities to this music video, as it was also shot in France, but there's also a bit of irony in making this comparison. Joan of Arc was known for her martyrdom for dying on a burning stake for fighting for her beliefs. And in a lot of ways, Sinead was a martyr for being ostracized for her actions on that one SNL performance. Even if she was right, she just ended up becoming a martyr. Just a detail that seems subtle to me. It really does feel like this music video has a lot more influence than we let on. And yet, while it's considered one of the greatest music videos ever, having that groundbreaking title thrown at it, it really does feel like that doesn't do it justice. Something about Nothing Compares to You introduced an idea of sorts that music videos don't need their equivalent of epics to attract an audience. You can have smaller budgeted music videos that have their own interesting dynamic. And MTV had to have realized it. The 1980s formula for music videos was wearing thin. Slowly, musicians normally being played only on 120 minutes would become part of the mainstream themselves. But Nothing Compares to You really did set the tone for future music videos and showing how to evoke such a impactful emotion. Any raw emotion that was against the grain that would become revolutionary. Maybe even a music video that would first be shown on 120 minutes, one fateful day in 1991 that shaped the whole decade. But that, of course, is a video for another day. I do wish I got to listen to Sinead O'Connor's work before her untimely passing. Morrissey's tribute, the singer chastising those offering theirs, saying that they didn't have the guts to support her when she was still alive, seems rather accurate. Sinead O'Connor was a unique musician that will never be replicated, and that might be a good thing. She had gone through a lot of horrific events in her life, but she pressed on and continued making music. She was a legend for that, and this music video showed that there is no one else out there that can be compared to her. Thank you for hearing me, and thanks for your time.
Thank you for hearing.